fast to dreams. For if dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams. For when dreams go, life is a barren field, frozen with snow.
Lots of oranges, half the sugar, 1,000% delicious. That's simple math. Say yes to simple.
We had a chance to catch up with the folks at the Black Women's Roundtable. Of course, they were sharing their thoughts and perspectives. You know, Black women are a centerpiece of Essence Festival, and one of the things that we have been, of course, dealing with has been this battle with reproductive rights. That's one of the issues since the Roe v. Wade decision came down with the Supreme Court. That was a major part of a panel conversation today, but also the power of Black women. The Black Women's Roundtable, they actually had that session. Melanie Campbell and her group, and so we had an opportunity to chat with them and to actually showcase that. If you go to our Black Star Network app, you'll actually see the entire event. We live stream the entire event, an opportunity for us to be able to show you that conversation. And so I want to play some of that right now, y'all. And so hopefully we won't have any technical issues. And so let's go to that conversation.
It's different medications that are FDA approved, that they have the right to access those medications through the mail, and they're willing to stand up for those protections. That's really important. You know, I think that there are other implications around access to contraception and just other health care services. There are some requirements under the Affordable Care Act, and even under Medicaid and people's ability to access those sorts of services. So I think that the administration can do a lot to speak up on that, but I also think that they just have to be bold and unequivocal that this is a ruling that cannot stand. Right. Like we should not accept it as anything but a politically driven effort to deny women and people who give birth their rights. And they need to be bold and loud and consistent in saying, we will fight it. We will fight it at every place we can because it is unacceptable and it is inconsistent with what we know about the Constitution and our rights generally. But that's where they can start.
I think you said that so beautifully, and I'm so glad you said it first because I don't have the nice words to say what I think they need to do, right? I just think this administration needs to boss up. Like that's what they need to do. They need to stop playing this little pitter-patter game and actually take off the gloves and do the work. Right? So yes, we have our role to play. I know we're going to talk about voting and the power of that, and all of that's important. But if we don't have folks who are willing to stand in the ways that we need them to, unapologetically, by any means necessary kind of attitude, then why are you in this office, right? I don't understand. So I think I'm coming with, I appreciate those who can put it with this, give us the right things to say, and I lean on these folks right here. Because I'm ready to say, get off your asses and actually do the work that you were put in your position to do. Our previous administration used everything and then some to put us in the situation that we are in. Why are we not doing the same thing? And not trying to say we're trying to be like the opposition, but it is important for our people to use their power that they have to the fullest extent of that and do that thing for real, y'all. So I think I'm coming with a lot of fire today, in case y'all haven't noticed. But I'm ready for them to boss up.
So we're looking at Roe v. Wade, we're looking at EPA, we're looking at an interesting border decision. And before that, it was guns everywhere, right? And so what we divide up, and my sisters to the left, they going in hard on Roe, and we know the impact. But this is you know that thing of you got to know your history or you'll repeat it? This folks.
That's right.
There's a bunch of folks that always had an agenda with a very, very few. So I want some white folks to understand, look, you weren't included either. They coming up for yours as well. the folks on the plantation, there wasn't a whole lot of folks in the big house. It was just a little crew over there, and everybody else served them. So that was the plan. And now there's a movement to say, how can we, the few, control the rest? And everybody, so the only way that can happen is if some of us work on Roe, and some of us work on the environment, and some of us work on that, and we miss the bigger picture. And then the other thing is our numbers. They got black folks in the mindset that we like 13%. I travel. Everywhere I go, there's black people. Everywhere. I go to South America, there's black people. I go to Africa, there's a lot more black people. I go to Europe, there's plenty of black folks. So the issue and what time it is, we have to understand that we got to make the leap forward. We can't do what we've done. And we have to set an agenda for these young people that enables them to reach for the future. We're going to hold it down. And those of us that are in the blue states, where you can get pills, the best thing I heard, you buy a lot of them if you can afford to, so that we can distribute where they need to be. It's like, I am gangster. So we come to gangster.
Yes!
Dealing with a sister in a situation, we gonna drive you, we gonna provide you, we've done it for other stuff. And look, I'm not trying to party and get high, I'm trying to save a life. So we got to be there and let it be known. If you come for me, you come for all of us.
That's it.
So that's what time it is, because this is not a situation we want to. That it would be just about abortion.
The only thing that I would just raise again, and I'm going to pick up where you put down, is that we need to be intersectional and creative. So what does that mean? That means that even though this conversation is about abortion access, we know that black women are not just about abortion access, and abortion access is not just about abortion. It's an economic issue. It's an environmental issue. It's a criminal justice issue. It's all these other things that come into our lives. So our administration not only should be thinking about Roe, it should also be thinking about how do we make sure that the lives of black women, regardless if they want to have an abortion and or keep their pregnancy, right, that they are creating the conditions for that to happen. So we also need to be keeping them accountable of what does it mean to have fair pay. We also need to be keeping them accountable. What does it mean to also have paid parental leave? What does it mean for us to be thinking about this full range of things so folks can actually give themselves options? Because abortion access is more than about, oh, well, I just woke up and I just don't want to be pregnant. Even though sometimes that is the question, or sometimes that is the answer. Abortion access is about all the pieces, because we know that most people who have abortions are already parents, right? We know that, so they are making, and most times they are making economical decisions. That's right. So how do we also address those issues as well? So when folks tell you that there is nothing to do because of the Congress and the way it's at, don't believe them.
That's right.
Tell them that there are many things that they can be doing around abortion access. There are many things that can be doing around a reproductive and sexual health access. And it doesn't just stop at one piece of legislation or one court case.
That's very important. What I'm hearing, a common thread is tell Congress, which pivots me into where we're headed. We're headed to the midterm election. Yeah. Well, we vote folks in and we vote folks out. What should we be thinking about right now, also planning and preparing to do for the midterm to impact what's going on?
And we vote at high numbers. We get out there, older black women, or more seasoned black women are one of the highest propensity voters in the country, right? But we need to also make sure that our vote is getting paid off after they get into office. So what do we also do after the voting? How are we holding them accountable? Are we asking them questions? What are you doing? How are you helping black folks? And then after, make sure that they are actually holding the folks accountable. We can be asking elected officials right now where are your stance on abortion access? Where is your stance on all these issues? Just because you came to my church doesn't mean that you got my back. So we need to be also having all of those conversations and having them answer to Black women in particular and Black birthing folks. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the first piece. I think the second one, this is not normal times. So we can't be acting normally. So that means that we got to, again, think big and creative on how we are engaging with our people. So that means we might have to have roundtable discussions in our living rooms. We might have to have roundtable discussions in our bedrooms. We need to be making sure that all folks are aligned and having conversations. So you got cousin and them coming to the elections and coming to the polls with you and asking those same questions.
So I'm so glad to know that I'm at the end of the stage with the not normal. Because, see, so I sat in the right chair. Because while I'm working to get everybody that I can to vote, we have the opportunity to lift up things. We can say, oh, your choice is this. And we have a Reverend Warnock from Ebenezer that's articulate, educated, the examples. So it's like, you can go with this or you can go with that. I want to be a little bit ahead. So where I am in the curve, let's make voting mandatory for anybody that gets a government amount or pays taxes. Now, it's not going to probably happen, but that's my position. Let's make voting mandatory. What is that? That is going beyond where we are. And then I want the people with the Constitution to explain, let them get on the page. And no, we don't want to do that because they've had me running against a flow. So I want to change the flow of the river and say, anytime we're in a state where people can visibly try to tear down the government, we need that big change that you're talking about in a bigger vision. So make it mandatory. So in my conversation with young people, I'm saying, yeah, I'm working hard to make sure you're going to have to vote. So you might as well practice now.
Folks, Faith Daniels, who is a social media correspondent with HBCU League Pass, she caught up with a couple of young voters after that panel discussion, and they had a couple of things to say.
And so today I'm here with
Olivia Duncan and Anaya Vines.
So I heard you guys are HBCU grads. Rep your hood.
CAU 22. Come on, HU, you know, Howard University, period.
Okay, so we're here at the Black Women's Roundtable. What has been your biggest takeaway from today?
Just being able to be in a space with such amazing Black women. Anytime it's an event with the Black Women's Roundtable, it's always life-changing.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of Liv, this has been a great experience, from the panels to the poetry, everything, the food, just always top tier. I love my Black women.
What would you say your definition of womanhood is?
To me, especially with the state of everything right now, I would say vulnerability. It takes a lot to be a woman, to be in difficult conversations, to be in difficult positions, to always have to be the strong Black woman, and then not really have time for yourself. So I would definitely say vulnerability, and that's not always a negative thing. Sometimes it's good to be vulnerable. Sometimes it's good to come into these spaces and have difficult conversations, but understand how to better love yourself and how to take care of yourself and to how to identify with issues that you didn't even know you were dealing with.
Yes, I would say for me, womanhood has always been our power, and I feel like it's one of America's greatest fears. I feel like there has been so much historically that has gone against women, specifically Black women, to where it's like we're seen as like a threat to America, and that just, I feel like, amplifies the power that we hold as Black women. So it's always been something that has been looked at as a power for me.
With recent headlines of Roe versus Wade being overturned, what was your initial emotion?
I was actually at work I work for this nonprofit called Georgia Stand Up, and all we do is get in the community and support the people. So as we were sitting there, we were like, wow, like, what do we do? No, like, I was speechless. And there were a lot of emotions going through my head, like, oh my gosh, Plan Bs, abortions, all these difficult conversations that I'm going to have to talk about and deal with. I didn't realize it, but later on that day. So immediately I was talking to my boss and amongst my coworkers and peers, and I was like, we have to get up. We were actually one of the first organizations and groups in Atlanta to go downtown to the courthouse, not even 2 hours after the decision was made, and go out there and protest. So urgency. I felt a lot of urgency and disappointment and hurt, but hope as well.
I think when I heard about the overturning of Roe v. Wade, of course it was disappointing, but in my head I feel like I wasn't surprised. I feel like there's so much expectation that we still have as a black community and black people in America, and just through experience, understanding like America and those that are in positions in government, they do not fight for us as black people. It is us that fights for us. It's us that has to make sure that they're held accountable. So when I heard about the decision, I was like, dang, what do we need to do next? Now it's next steps. Now it's, how do we mobilize on the streets? How do we change this? Because since 1972, I believe that behind closed doors, they've been actively working to overturn it. So now for us, we wake up and we see, okay, this has been a thing that's been overturned, but this has been in motion for 50 plus years. So now it's just what's next.
Now, both of you guys were on a panel today talking about women's rights. Of course, you guys are fighting. Your mothers have fought. Your grandmothers. Everybody has been fighting for women's rights. What would you say the reason is why it's so pivotal now?
Because we are the next generation. We are the generation now and the generations to come. These are our children. These are our bodies. For so long, I've watched my grandmother protest. I've watched my grandmother organize. I've seen all these things that she's done, and it's time for me and my generation to step up and take on these roles and to stand up for something.
Yes, I feel like saying, why is it so important now sometimes can be a loaded question, because we have been taught to fight. Just our ancestors have been taught to fight. Us as black people have been taught to fight. There has not been a time for black people since we arrived from the transatlantic slave trade where we had time to just live. We have always been fighting to survive, fighting to speak, fighting for our rights, for our womanhood. So I feel like we're fighting because that's just our instinct at this point. I just cannot wait until we get to a point where we are not just fighting, but we are actually living.
So before I let you all go, to the little girls that look up to you guys, that aspire to speak out for what is right for them, what is your advice to them?
My advice is, as overwhelming as this may be, as complicating as the terms and the words and the politics can get, do what you feel comfortable doing and get a little bit uncomfortable and be okay with being uncomfortable. If it's going on Twitter and that's how you protest, then go on Twitter and that's how you protest. If you want to boycott a certain organization, company, brand, whatever, do that. If you are into policy making, if you like to write about what's going on. Take your camera and take pictures. Amplify the voices and the work that's already being done. So find your place in the movement and get involved.
I would say, just know that you are naturally strong, and you have not only God with you, but you have those that came before you with you. So just channel that power. It is more so a thing that you are born into and born with rather than taught. And being a black woman in particular, you have nothing to fear because you are walking in the path of giants. So you'll be fine.
How would you say today's event went? How excited were you for it?
Today's event was phenomenal. Anytime Melanie Campbell calls me, I'm going to come running because I know when she does her events, you feel empowered, you feel a sisterhood, and there's this camaraderie that you can't get when you're just kind of on your own. But when we come to these convenings, it's phenomenal, and you're energized and you're just ready to get out and do the work.
What is your definition of womanhood?
My definition of womanhood? That's a good question. I think that I would call womanhood just, I don't necessarily think that womanhood has to just be a woman. I think that men can feel empowered by knowing that they are protecting and looking out for the best interests of people. It's looking out for one another. It's caring for one another. It's holding one another up, wind beneath other one's wings, and just helping to light someone else's candle. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to be alone. You can work with other women, work with other men, work with other people to lift everyone up.
So for the little girls and young ladies that look up to you and aspire to have as much courage as you all have in order to actually have a table talk such as this, what is your advice to them?
Just keep doing the work. Don't think that you cannot do this. Don't think that you are not smart enough. You are not gregarious enough. You're not outgoing enough. You can do this work. The quietest voice can be the most powerful sometimes. So never believe that you cannot do it. Always know that whatever you put your mind to, whatever you think about, whatever comes to mind and thought of, I wonder if I could, yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Period. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Made the simple way. With real lemon juice, 75% less sugar, and say yes to simple.
Hold fast to dreams. For if dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams. For when dreams go, life is a barren field frozen with snow.
Lots of oranges, half the sugar, 1,000% delicious. That's simple math. Say yes to simple.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now. We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?